It's been well over a year since I made the video on the first tier of Scottish football, and I didn't think I'd make one for the second division to be honest, but here we are. Let's check out the stadiums of the Scottish Championship. Gayfield Park, Arbroath. Gayfield is known for its proximity to the sea and subsequently, the cold, windy conditions the spectators have to endure. Now I know what you're thinking, but before you say it, no. It's not called Gayfield because the spectators huddle together for warmth. It's a good thing I stopped you from saying that because that's actually quite inappropriate. Anyway, it might get cold, but I think that backdrop is worth it. Even though only a few spectators get that view. Oddly enough, the place was a tip before Arbroath took over the site. Somerset Park, Ayr United. I can't imagine this is named after Somerset down in England, because Somerset has some beautiful architecture and this is looking a tad dull. The exterior at least. Overall it's a fairly standard old school stadium, with just the main stand being an all-seater, the rest is terracing, including along the northern side of the ground where there is a rather large, completely uncovered terrace. I would have assumed such a thing would be outlawed in Scotland, but no. Thankfully, plans have been made to upgrade that stand and give it a roof. Balmoral Stadium, Cove Rangers. I could be mistaken, but I believe this is where the Queen died. Hang on, I should check. I don't want to be... Yep. Died at Balmoral aged 96. Interesting choice. I guess she was a die-hard Cove Rangers fan. Anyway, stadium is the smallest in the league capacity-wise, which is quite apparent when you see that this is the main stand. It's tiny, but when you compare it to the three smaller stands on the other side, it's huge. Oh, I have to make a correction regarding the Queen. She's not a Cove supporter, she was there as a neutral. Dens Park, Dundee. What you're witnessing here, folks, is a natural phenomenon that is only seen in Scotland. It's called dual stadia syndrome. The cool damp air combined with the vague scent of tatty scones can confuse the brain into thinking it can see two stadiums, when really we know that they would never build two stadiums so close together. This old ground is pretty unusual, in particular this bent stand that you see here. Like many of the grounds in this league, it used to host greyhound racing, so I suppose it has to do with that. I'd imagine that's also why there's a significant gap between most stands in the field. Despite that, I quite like this stadium, plenty of character. Capillo, Greenock Morton. In a country full of old stadiums, this is one of the oldest, having opened in 1879, and the club has been there since the beginning. Despite this, they've still decided to cheapen the name of the ground by giving it the official title of Capillo Park, supported by Dalrada Technology UK. But I understand it. Greenock is a small club. They have to do what they can to stay afloat. It's a decent old ground, I suppose. New Douglas Park, Hilton Academical. Speaking of academical, this is very much a new school stadium. With its 3 all-seater stands, it also has an artificial turf field, and of course here they no longer teach you that the shape of your head determines what you should do for a living. Very progressive. The small stand over here is the odd one out. It's small, like I said, has an almost temporary look to it, but I think it's just there to make up the numbers. Of course there is no stand to the south, so certainly beats that. Situated on the shores of the Moray Firth is Caledonian Stadium, home of the Inverness Caledonian Thistle. If you couldn't tell already, the stadium lies within a region called Caledonia, or Northern Scotland in times non-Roman. This is one of the few grounds in the league that isn't over 100 years old. It was built in the 90s shortly after Inverness Thistle and Caledonian merged, so the facilities are fairly modern. No terracing in sight, and there's a roof sheltering the majority of spectators. Of course, a lot of people prefer terracing, so that's not necessarily a good thing. Firhill Stadium, Partick Thistle. This ground has a good mix of old and new, charming and boring, concrete and grass. Firstly, I appreciate the Colin Weir stand over here, with its old-fashioned gabled roof. Yes, it does have pillars holding it up, but the other two stands have cantilevered roofs, so you could always sit there. The north and south ends of the ground couldn't be more different. To the north, the ground is overlooked by some odd-looking apartment buildings, and to the south, there is just this slightly scruffy-looking grass embankment. Ochilview Park, Queen's Park. Interestingly, the main stand is named after Norway, the small African country. I believe that's due to the fact that another club that calls this place home, the Long-Term Tenant, has a large contingent of Norwegian supporters. For some reason, they decided to sponsor the stand and name it after their country. Anyway, the reason I mentioned that is there isn't a whole lot else to say about this small stadium. Oh no, I spoke too soon. There's a B&M Bargains next door, so that's good? I don't know. Starks Park, Raith Rovers. Wow, the stadium name rhymes and the team name is alliterated. I wonder how interesting the manager's name is. Ian Murray. Well, that's put a dampener on things. I don't know whether I want to continue now, to be honest. The stadium itself is quite interesting. This unusually shaped stand that dates back to the 1920s in particular makes the one at Dens Park look completely normal. I actually quite like it. If it weren't for that though, this would be a fairly plain and simple stadium. So there you have it, the Scottish Championship stadiums. Not too shabby at all. My favourite of the lot would have to be, I want to say Gayfield, but I have to say Dens Park. It might not be the prettiest, but it has plenty of character. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and as always, thanks for watching, have a good one.